Welcome to Restoring the Inner Person with Jane.
Hello and welcome back to Restoring the Inner Person with me, Jane. We are still very early in the year, so it's in order to tell you happy new year. We've already had one episode so far. And today I want to extend and continue in the mood of the new year, and we are going to talk about a very interesting topic that I would appreciate if you consider it to be one of your new year resolutions, and that is about personal boundaries. Yes, I'm suggesting to you that you consider having personal boundaries if you don't have them, or if you have them, to strengthen them. What are personal boundaries in the first place? It's not about, being selfish. It's not about pushing other people out of your way. It's not about not wanting to be with people. No. Having personal boundaries is about having limits. Physical limits, spiritual limits, emotional limits, mental limits into your personal space. Think of boundaries like having a fence around yourself. In your compound, if you have a fence, you definitely have a gate. So if it's about personal boundaries, that psychological fence that you have built around yourself, just see it having a gate. That gate, it's you who determines who comes in and who doesn't. The people who are supposed to get into your space and those who are not supposed to. So it is the same thing we are talking about. So this channel being about the inner person. So personal boundaries, it's about whom you get in, to affect your inner space, to affect your emotions, to affect you mentally, to affect you spiritually. You set your own personal limits. And when you do that, you purpose what gets in. And whatever gets in, what does it do unto you? That inner person needs to be strong, need to be given positive vibes, need to be strengthened, need to be encouraged. So you determine what gets into your personal space, into the inner person, to strengthen you, to encourage you, and not the opposite of that. Let's ask ourselves. We have people who have issues with personal boundaries. They have, what we can say, they are weak in setting those personal boundaries. So let's ask ourselves, what are some of the things that make people to struggle with personal boundaries? Why do we struggle? So one of the things is that maybe some of us want to be nice to others at all costs. But I hope you're already realizing that you don't have to be nice to people at the expense of your own emotions, your own mental health, your own even physical health. You don't have to be nice. Those other people have issues. You don't have to say yes all the time. The truth is, you don't have to say yes all the time. Learn to question. Learn to underline. Learn to take a step back and get to understand an issue, someone, before you let it into your space. So there are people who are not able to do exactly what I have said. To first of all, take a step back. So don't just do things out of impulse. Learn to question. So some people are not able, and that's why they struggle with setting personal boundaries. You know, in one of my episodes, I have talked about people pleasing. There are people who are simply people pleasers. The focus is out of themselves. They focus so much to please others at the expense of their own happiness. People pleasers. People pleasers do struggle with personal boundaries. Another thing is spirituality. There are people who have issues with spiritual boundaries because maybe they are easily manipulated. There are people who struggle because they are easily manipulated. Why? Because maybe they have not searched for truth themselves, spiritual truth. If you are a Christian, search for spiritual truth by reading the Word of God. But you know, in the spirit world, there is a lot of manipulation. In the religious world, there is a lot of manipulation. But you need to underline, you need to question, you need to step back and always turn the things that you are being told or the things that you are being taught upside down. Don't leave any stone unturned before you make a decision or before you follow a certain doctrine or whatever you are being taught. Make sure it is the truth and the truth of God. We also have people who sacrifice their limits. They are very sacrificial. They think by having no boundaries, by giving sacrifices, that is what is right, when for sure it is not true. So, let us not over-explain, overstay in a place, overdo things. Do not be a people pleaser. Ensure you have personal boundaries. Now, having said that, I want us to move on, and I want now to give you the different types of personal boundaries that you need. I've already mentioned, let us just go into a bit of details. Yes, we have different types of personal boundaries, those that you can set for yourself. And remember, I've said, when you set boundaries, you choose what gets into your space. It's just like choosing food. Even with food, you set boundaries. You don't eat everything. Even when you go to a party, to a celebration, you don't eat everything. If you have boundaries with food, you choose what to eat. You choose to eat what is healthy. You choose to eat what is balanced. You choose to eat that which is properly cooked. Yes. Personal boundaries. So let's now go straight into the different types of personal boundaries. So the first one is emotional boundaries. So what do you mean by emotional boundaries? So emotional boundaries is about protecting your feelings and your emotional energy. Choosing not to allow things that have aroused negative emotions into you. Negative emotions also have their own positivity. For example, if you can say anger is a negative emotion, but do you know that anger can also be positive? So that is for another day. But we are saying you choose the things that allows you emotionally. If something you are not okay, it is leaving you unsettled. It is leaving you totally disorganized emotionally. Then it is you who chooses. This place I will not go. These people I'll not engage. This I'll not take in. This I'll not listen to. Why? Because it is affecting my emotions negatively. It is leaving me feeling more unhealthy. So make sure you have healthy emotional boundaries. Say to yourself that you care about yourself and you will not abandon yourself and you will not allow just anything to interfere with your emotions. Once Cora said that emotions color our world. Choose the kind of emotions that get into your space to color your world beautifully. Let's move on to the next one, and that is the physical boundary. And we are more familiar with physical boundaries. We have different types of, physical boundaries. When we look around ourselves, right now I'm in a room. It is separated from other rooms by the walls. Walls are physical boundaries. So, but when we have these physical boundaries, they demarcate and they create clearly show our physical space that belongs to us. And that space needs to be respected. But did you know that even when you don't have physical boundaries, you can create them? Like, nobody should just touch your body in any way. Have your boundaries, where to be touched and where not to be touched. When it comes to matters sex and sexuality, have personal boundaries. Have privacy. Let people know that privacy matters. Don't allow just anybody to get into your things, into your bag, into the rooms that they are not supposed to, to get into. So your personal space is very important. Physical boundaries demarcate our own personal space. Did you know that even maybe when you are in a room that is full of people, you have your own personal space? I don't know whether you have ever felt very uncomfortable if somebody sits too close to you. Why? Because that discomfort is because they have gotten into what we can call your personal space. If somebody is talking to you, there is a distance that is comfortable. If they come too near, you'll feel they are getting into your own personal space. So we need to understand our physical personal space and let the people around us to know it and respect it. Because when some people get into a personal space, it's kind of that is disrespect. It could mean intimidation, or it can mean very many negative things, and it can be very uncomfortable. So define your personal space physically. Have physical boundaries. So the other one is the mental or intellectual boundaries, and this has to do with your thoughts, your opinions, your beliefs, and all these, they need to be respected. We have a right to express ourselves, in terms of our thoughts, our opinions, and beliefs. And we don't need to argue with people. We don't need to explain ourselves. And it's also important to accept criticism because, we are not always right. We are not always right. So do not judge yourself so harshly maybe when people don't agree with your opinion and they criticize you. But it's always good to have positive criticism. Be in charge when it comes to your thoughts, your beliefs. Even if people are criticizing you, you need to know where the criticism ends. Because having boundaries, we can also say, is about knowing where does your space end and where do the space of others, even when it comes to your thoughts, people criticizing them, your opinions. There is the space, or we have the limits, and you can set that yourself. Know when to keep quiet, know when to change the subject, know when to say yes, I agree, or I'm sorry, I do not agree, but I'm entitled to my beliefs, I'm entitled to my opinions, I'm entitled to my way of thinking. But it's also important in that to know that it's good to know that if your opinions and thoughts and beliefs needs to be respected, also respect other people's thoughts, opinions, for the sake of their mental and intellectual health. So it's okay to disengage in conversations that you feel are disrespectful, conversations that you feel are unsafe, conversations that you feel they are getting out of hand, or they have lost direction, or they are just overly, you are not comfortable with the direction they are taking. It is very okay. Have mental and intellectual boundaries. So the other thing I would want to talk about is time boundaries. Yes, you should have time boundaries, and I must say without any fear that time is one of the most abused areas. People abuse other people's time, mostly by not keeping time or by getting too much into another person's space. Yes, there are some people who can put a lot of demand on you and you forget your own issues that also need your time. You need time for yourself, you need time for your family, you need time for rest, you need time for work, you need time for all those activities in your life. But remember also that human beings are social beings. We need each other. There is also time to be spent in with activities that involve other people, whether they are nuclear family members, our partners, job colleagues, the church community, all these people. But on your own space, it means that for you to have boundaries, you need to have your own time plans. Plan your day, plan your week, plan your month, and in those plans, you include all different activities, including other people, and of course, emerging issues. There are things that emerge along the way. Maybe somebody has planned for a wedding, for activities, and they invite you, and they were not within your plan. You can allow yourself to be flexible up to a certain extent. Where you can't, allow yourself to. Why? Because you have your own plan, and other people have their own plans. Time boundaries. It tells you that, there are times when you decline invitations, and you purpose maybe also to rest. Intentionally, you plan for your vacation, for your rest. There are times you will not be available for everybody all the time. Even the closest people, may they be friends or family. When it comes to time boundaries, that is what it means, that you cannot be available all the time. And you need to make a decision. Sometimes it's not very comfortable, but choosing yourself, making yourself a priority. But you are not saying that you should not be available for other people, but plan, be flexible, but be flexible to the extent that it does not leave you disorganized, it does not leave you feeling guilty, or feeling that something has been taken away from you. And as I move to the next one, I want to reassure you that when you purpose to rest, rest is not laziness. Choosing to rest, resting your mind, resting your body, it's not laziness. It is restoration. Yes, rest is restoration. It restores. Let's move on to the next type of boundary. We have spiritual boundaries. Spiritual boundaries. Spirituality has to do with our relationship with God. What is your personal relationship with God? Now, when it comes to spirituality, you'll agree with me that in the current times, we have a lot of spiritual manipulation. And every heart desires a deep connection with the higher power. And that is one of the places where people have been easily manipulated spiritually. So let's focus on Christianity. Did you know that there are people even who twist the scriptures to control others? But if you have your spirit on guard, you'll be able to sense and know that this is wrong, this is not the direction I would want to go to. I would advise you to ensure that you are grounded. Have spiritual boundaries will come from a place of being grounded, well knowledgeable as far as the word of God is concerned. If you are a Christian like me, read the Bible for yourself. Read the Bible from generation to revelation for yourself. Read the scriptures. Learn as much as possible. Read spiritual books that have spiritual truths. So when you are empowered spiritually, then you will not be easily manipulated. In my country, Kenya, and many other countries, we have seen people being spiritually manipulated, and they have done things that make us question a lot. Some have died. They have joined churches or ministries in quotes that have made them end up dying. Let us have spiritual boundaries. Do not be pressured to do practices that are not biblical, that they are not aligned with the truth of the Word of God. And one more thing I would want to encourage you to do is to not feel ashamed to question. Yes, question. Underline every word. Underline the things that you are being taught in your church by your spiritual leader. Ensure that you are spiritually sensitive. And if you feel you are questioning or you are in doubt, consult God, pray about it, read the word of God, and get to know the truth. Do not feel ashamed to question. Do not feel like your faith is less. When you feel you are in doubt or you are questioning, maybe some truths that you are being taught by maybe a spiritual authority. So spiritual growth must never cost you your peace or dignity. Spiritual growth should never cost you your peace and your dignity. If you end up dying, that's losing your dignity. If you end up losing the things that matter like family, that's losing your dignity. Do not feel ashamed to question. Spiritual growth should never cost you your peace or your dignity. And I want us to go to the last one, but the last but not least, and that is financial boundaries. Yes, you should have financial boundaries. I'm telling you, financial boundaries is about discipline. Having financial discipline. It's not just about how you spend and how being strict. Is about having a budget, and in that budget, also when it comes to generosity, what you give, whether it is to friends, helping others, you need to be disciplined. Giving is very beautiful, but I don't think it's very good to give until you yourself, you are suffering. I think that is self-betrayal. So let us have financial boundaries. It's okay to say you cannot afford. It is okay to say you cannot afford. It is okay to say you are not comfortable maybe giving somebody a certain money. They are putting a pressure on you. Maybe according to them, they think you can afford. You are having more money, and therefore they feel they are right for you to assist them. But we need to learn to say no. Look critically, maybe when you are assisting someone. Is it about money all the time, or is it something else they need? Can you be able to listen to that person and maybe help them by empowering them to see what is it that is within their resources that they can be able to do to be able to get and create their own money? Like people say, it's better you give somebody, instead of giving fish, you show somebody how to fish. So also put your priority on your own needs and your own responsibilities. So prioritize yourself, your needs, and your responsibilities. Have financial boundaries. I want us to move on now to something else. And having talked about the different types of boundaries that you may have, I want you to now kind of assess yourself how strong your personal boundaries are. So let me help you to reflect a bit in that. I want you to find out and assess yourself whether you feel guilty when you say no. Whether people are telling you do things, when it's about finances, whatever it is, do you find yourself feeling guilty when you have to say no? So if you do that, it means that's an indicator that your own personal boundaries need to be strengthened. They are not strong enough. Do you find yourself explaining yourself excessively? Do you know there are some situations that you don't actually need to explain yourself? If you say something, you say it, you don't have to excessively explain yourself. If you find yourself doing that, that's an indicator you have issues with your personal boundaries. Another thing is you find yourself tolerating to be disrespected by other people, maybe because you want to avoid conflict. You tolerate nonsense, things that are not okay. Why? Because you do not want to be in conflict with yourself. So what that tells you, you need to stand up for yourself. If you don't do that, you are always keeping quiet to avoid conflict, even when you need to rise up and talk. Then it means you have, your boundaries are not strong enough. Have you felt people resenting you and you remain silent? That's another indicator that you have boundaries, personal boundaries that are not strong enough. And one more thing is that, do you feel that you are responsible for everyone's happiness? There are some people who feel like maybe is in a home setup, maybe in your neighborhood or in the organization where you are, even in church is another organization that is like your responsibility to make sure that everyone is happy. If you find yourself feeling that, check your boundaries, recheck what I have already explained there. So these are not accusations, but these are just signals that you need healing, that you need work as far as your personal boundaries are. So how do healthy boundaries look like? So healthy boundaries is about being able to say no without long explanations. It's about being firm with what you say. Is allowing yourself to disappoint others, maybe by not being available all the time. It's about choosing peace over approval by others, and it's about also walking away from anything that dishonors you, from anything that is resenting you and that is not respecting from anybody. So you choose yourself. You choose healthy boundaries. You choose healthy relationships. You choose yourself. So having said that, let me just give you a few tips quickly on how you can start setting healthy boundaries. One, pay attention to any discomfort that you may be having in your body that is sending messages to you that your boundaries may be are being violated, or you are overdoing things and overstepping your own personal boundaries. Just be honest with yourself. Just name what drains you, what hurts you. Just be honest. Step number 3, communicate clearly. Be calm, be respectful. You don't have to over-explain. Just communicate clearly. What you think or how you feel. Another thing is that always, expect resistance, especially when you say things that maybe other people are not comfortable with, or you don't buy your idea but you're confused. Expect resistance. And last but not least, stay consistent. Don't say or do one thing today, then after a month, 3 months, then you are different. That one, people will not be able to respect your boundaries. Be consistent. Be consistent. And also, I want to encourage you to speak to yourself positively. Encourage yourself. Use statements like, what doesn't work for me is not for me. Learn to tell people you are not available, that you need to take time to think. Choose not to engage in conversations that are not okay for you. And just learn to express yourself. Tell people to respect your decision, and you don't have to apologize where you don't need to apologize. So finally, I want to give you some encouraging words. And if you are watching and listening to me, I want you to repeat after me these words. I am allowed to say no. I'm allowed to say no. My needs matter. I can be kind without self-abandonment. I am allowed to protect my peace. Thank you for spending time with me. And if this message spoke to you, please like, share, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Let us continue this journey of restoration together. See you in my next episode.